Hey, I'm Steve Lantvit. We're here at High Grove Farm.
I'm Jean Lambert, and I'm here at High Grove Farm with him.
We're on Jazz the Equicizer. We're in the office, and what we're going to do is just talk about what to do and how to prep the body and put the body in the right position if a horse is bucking out on trail in the arena or something like that. Yesterday we had Jean on a horse in the round pen. We were doing a cold starting, and it was a great point that Jean brought up, and she said, what should I do if we're bucking? Well, what you need to do when a horse starts to buck on you, the most important thing for the rider is to establish rhythm with the horse. And you're going to establish rhythm with the horse based on your legs. Okay, I need to keep the seat in the saddle. If I can keep my rider's seat in the saddle, I'm going to keep him sunny side up. All right, so what happens is, think about this. When the horse is bucking through the air and he's pushing off on the ground and his body's lifting, your legs are going to come heels down and forward. As he starts to descend, he's leaving you hanging in midair. So as he's leaving you hanging in midair, you're going to bring your legs back and pump. As you scoop back into the saddle with your knees bending, it's going to suck you into the saddle. When you hit on impact, upper body goes back, heels down, down, up, down, up. And it's establishing that rhythm. That pumping motion that you'll do with your legs, okay, it will be based on how that horse bucks. If you have a horse like a young colt that's bucking like a jackrabbit, your legs are going to be pumping faster. And if you have one that has a lot of hang time, that pumping rhythm in your legs that you're going to establish will slow down. The key is to pump your legs in the rhythm that the horse is bucking. Do you understand, Jane?
Absolutely.
All right, so if that's what we're going to do, it's really, the idea is just to get the rhythm and the upper body position, okay? A bronc rider's going to come back. Well, the same thing, we're going to do the same thing. We want to bring our shoulders back over our hips, right, okay, when we're coming down, and the same thing when we're coming up, we're going to sit forward a little bit. And we're trying to lower, as he's descending, our center of gravity. So just like in a stop, what do? Lower center of gravity, right. We exhale. I need to keep your center of gravity as close to his center of gravity to make it as secure for her as possible, or any rider. Okay, so on the descent, you're dropping into it. If your lower back is soft, you're not going to go ahead and pop out of that saddle. Okay, so if you land like this, you're landing stiff-legged, exactly what just happened right there in another previous injury that we won't get into right now. So that's the whole idea. Keep it natural, keep a rhythm going, and you just want to match that rhythm with the horse. Understand?
Absolutely. Okay,
otherwise we go splat. So we're going to put, we don't want that. No. Okay, so we could really do this on Jazz. Okay, Jazz doesn't even have to move. Okay, because this is a cantering rhythm. What we really want to just do is just sit here, establish that pumping, and have Jean here understand what that rhythm feels like. Okay, and once we do that in a saddle on an Equicizer, we start to create muscle memory. Okay, so when you get in a clutch situation, we know what to do.
Right.
Okay, same thing. If we want to go ahead, totally opposite of a bronc rider, we don't want to encourage that bucking, that rhythm. We want to actually get them slowed down, but we need them moving forward. In this pumping that we do with their legs, when we actually bend our knees and come back, I want you to actually kick that horse and send him forward. Okay. That's where the biggest problem that a lot of riders, they'll start to buck and they lose forward movement. We control a horse and always train it by creating movement, redirecting movement, or inhibiting movement. So if once that horse starts to buck, we go stagnant and just lock out our legs and sit there and buck on him, we stop him going forward, okay? That's the last thing I want to do. I'm going to tell all my students that once they start bucking, always drive, 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 drive. I've minimized the effect of the buck because the faster he's going forward, the lower he's going to go up.
Right.
Okay, his energy. This is just a physics class that we had in high school. Okay, so if we do that correctly, encouraging that motion forward, eventually he'll just break back into canter, to a trot, and that buck will dissipate. That's what we're really after. If we're doing that with our legs, pushing forward and driving him forward, what I want to see with the hands, especially the inside hand, if we're riding in a snaffle bit or something, I really don't want to see both hands bear down. Okay? If I go ahead and bear down on both hands, I'm engaging both sides of the bit. Okay? And when I'm doing that, I'm creating tension in the neck, tension in the shoulder.
And he's going to go up.
What I want to do is, this is very few times that I'm going to tell you, raise your horse's head. I want his back to drop, his shoulder to drop, and then I'm going to kick his hindy in gear and we're going forward. So instead of going ahead and using two hands where he could brace against you, I really want to go ahead, if you're two-handed in the bridle, I like to see you raise your inside hand, not pull back, okay? We're not going around a turn trying to elevate the shoulder. I want to elevate the head. I need to elevate the head from the bit. So I'm going to go ahead and have my rider stick their arm straight out forward as they're bucking, okay? And then they're in rhythm, and as you're doing it, and I would prefer to do it coming down, bump that horse's head straight up, okay? With the arm straight out, because I want to get as much leverage out over the bit to bring it up. Once that horse's head comes up over his shoulder, his back is hollowed out and he can canter forward. Okay, I'm disengaging the buck. This is, there's different ways of doing it. You can disengage the hind end, but a lot of times when you're disengaging the hind end, what's the end result of a disengagement is a stop. Okay, and a stop is that not just a rest? Okay, that might be the reward that that particular horse is seeking out. So, and depending on the horse, depending on the situation, depending on the environment, I might want to go ahead and let that horse take a couple of his little hops, encourage it forward. I don't want that horse to realize that the buck is the way out of the work, because the work has never stopped. We're going forward, we're just going to continue forward. It might be a little bumpy and a little bit of a storm. Hopefully we'll weather the storm correctly. If you know how to ride the buck, pump with your legs, sit deep in the saddle, and how to get the head up, you can weather the storm. We're going to get Jean on the saddle right here, and we're just going to let her feel a couple little pumps, have her understand what she's going to do with her legs and what she can do with her hands. Okay, we've got Jean in the saddle right now. We're going to go over some of the positions that we just talked about, the pumping with the legs, what we're going to do with the hands. So remember, why don't you explain to me, so this way you're processing it in your mind, what do you do when the horse is going up in the air?
When the horse is going up, I'm going back.
Back.
And yeah, and I got my center, the whole time I'm trying to get my center of gravity as low as possible.
All right.
And anchored and stay in the saddle.
And then what are you going to do with your legs?
When my legs, I'm going forward.
Forward and your heels down.
My heels down.
Okay, because he's coming up, so the more
That's very stable feeling.
The more he's coming up, the more leg you want to put on. Okay, you're going to pump your legs as he's descending all the way through impact, and then he's going to coil and he's going to come up again. As he coils and comes up again, you're going to go with him. Just like what you want to do is actually mimic his legs.
Right.
Okay, because when he's pushing off, his legs extend. Your legs should extend. As he's landing, his legs are coiling. Your legs should coil.
Right.
You're absorbing the energy. His energy has to dissipate into you. As you do that, you get locked in the saddle. Then, when you're going, now what we're going to do, as your legs mimic his legs, you're going to drive him forward.
Right.
Because create movement, redirect movement, or inhibit movement. If he's moving forward, we have an opportunity to train. If we've lost forward movement, we've given over all control to the horse. So in a situation where I don't want to do a disengagement, where I want to encourage forward movement, if I'm in a safe environment, if I feel secure, if I have enough faith in my rider that I know that they could go ahead and just ride out the couple little bunny hops or whatever's happening, I might go ahead and have my rider drive forward. So as I'm telling you to drive forward, Jean, I will, as you pump with your legs, I want you to go ahead and just put pressure behind the girth and drive him forward. We want to encourage forward movement, and that's it. So we're trying to dissipate the energy coming from him into our body.
Right.
So think of you when you're on top of him. You know, you have an English background. We talk about squeezing the sponge in our hands. This time, this is your sponge. And I want you to absorb all that energy, take you right in there, and then go ahead, and when he explodes, you're just going to let it flow out of your legs again. You understand? This way you're locked into the saddle. The best way, again, and we've talked about this just a second ago, collection is when his back is up, his shoulders up, and he has engaged hind end. And a buck is really nothing more than over-exaggerated collection, because he's going to take all of his energy, all of his stored energy, and he's trying to explode out of fear, out of stubbornness, out of whatever. At that time, I really don't care about his motivation. I want to make sure that my rider is safe, and that we can go ahead and take a bad situation and make it a trainable situation. Any other questions?
No. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot.